I'm just going to quickly run through a few bits of housekeeping, and I just want to make sure that we are all aware of what's going on this evening. So our format for this evening, we've actually got two speakers lined up. We will have the first speaker after I've gone through some of these housekeeping bits. We'll then have a break, finish off any pizza and drinks that may be left over there, and then we'll come back in for the second and final speaker for the evening. After that, we'll then head round to a local bar for some socialising and to continue networking. You're welcome to have your drinks, food, etc. around here, but please do tidy up after yourselves. There's some bins over the back there, so please do fill those as you finish. And could I just ask that your mobile phones are on silent, just out of respect for the speakers, please, including myself. There is Wi-Fi available. Why guests, Yoti let me serve if you need Wi-Fi access. Just while people are logging on to that, just out of interest, who's here for the first time this evening? Excellent, welcome. Don't believe you, but welcome. Thank you all very much for joining us. As far as we're aware, there are no planned fire alarms for this evening. So if there is a fire alarm, it's back out the doors, back out the way we came in, to the right and down the stairs, not using lifts. Sorry, completely lost my train of thought there. Your host this evening, myself, Dan Maybe, Diane Wallace just here. We've got Gary Jones over there on the camera, and we got Paul Smith chatting over at the back there. So if you do have any questions, thoughts, feedback, anything at all, do come and have a chat with one of the four of us. We're always looking for new ideas. We're always looking for feedback. We want to ensure that the event that we're doing here is appropriate for you, the community. So we want to make sure that you are enjoying it, it's informative, make sure that the subject matter is appropriate. So do come and have a chat with us. Similarly, we want to hear about the food, we want to hear about the venue. We just want to hear about everything, really, make sure that we're doing it right for you. We do have a feedback form again. I'll share that towards the end. Just want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors, the power to simplify, build, secure, and run your apps and websites. Plesk, simplifying the life of sysadmins and small businesses. There's web hosting crafted with care. SiteGround provide hosted services crafted for top speed and security with 24/7 expert support. So SiteGround are continuing to sponsor us through to the middle of 2019 currently. Digital enterprise platform built for growth. WP Engine, press forward. We've got some of the WP Engine team here this evening, over here. So if you've got any questions, feel free to head over and have a chat with these guys. Weglot, the WordPress multilingual plugin. Weglot, translate and display your website in different languages. Have we lost the microphone there? Can you still hear me? Where are we? So yeah, new digital identity platform, Yoti. So verify and identify your website users and let them log in using their biometrics. Also want to say a special thank you to Yoti this evening for hosting us. These guys have been amazing to work with. And you may have noticed over there, you've got some special little gifts going on. If you managed to grab a power pack from these guys, they've got a few other bits of goodies going on. So do head over during the break, grab some bits of swag. Please feel free. The sponsors have been really supportive of WPLDN. And so without these guys, we wouldn't be able to, without these companies, we wouldn't be able to run the event as we do with the drinks, the food, and the various bits of swag. So please do take a look, help yourself, and also visit these guys. Take a look at their services and understand what they do. Just want to say a big thanks to our supporters as well. Blue 37, a strategic thinking team of digital experts with a creative edge based out of Essex and London. And Paul Smart, web design, marketing and a consultancy for businesses who seek growth through digital. On to this evening. As I said earlier, we've actually got two speakers lined up. We've got Alex and Mark. Where are we? Alex, Mark's over here. Where's that? Alex just here. So Alex will be talking to us about the proper use of marketing within our WordPress businesses, and Mark will be asking how we transition to a block-based admin UI in a pre-Gutenberg WordPress. So a hot topic at the moment. Before we go on to the speakers, though, I just want to offer an opportunity for community announcements. If you're aware of anything that's going on in and around the community at the moment, if there are any events going on, if you're looking to hire, if you're looking, if you know some training courses going on, it's just an opportunity for you to stick your hand up and just let us know what's going on. So, does anybody have anything at all? No, we've got nothing at all. Yes, Mark.
Hello, we are looking to hire a WordPress developer. So I am the co-owner of a small WordPress agency called High Rise Digital. We are a remote team. So if you're interested in joining us as a WordPress developer, then if you visit our website, highrise.digital/hiring, you'll find all the information there. So,
Brilliant, thank you. So that's highrise.digital/hiring. And anything else? Yes. Let's give another microphone, shall we?
Okay, I don't know exactly how to say that, but I've retrained as learning web development with WordPress, and so I need some practice. So it would be maybe early to work in a company, but if somebody needs some help, or maybe a company want to, I can start working. But it would be a small team basically, more than a large. So I would like to be able to work in, do practice in exchange of learning all those bits that you miss between one thing or the other. So yeah.
Excellent, thank you. So you're looking for a bit of mentorship?
Yes, sort of I can help in exchange of learning what the others do. I've learned everything all by myself, and I come from Drupal. So WordPress is quite exciting now.
Sure. Excellent. Oh, thank you. Anybody else?
Does a mentorship.
hi, so we offer a WordPress mentorship program. So if you're looking to get better at using WordPress, we offer a program of it's 12 sessions over Google Hangouts where you can ask questions, get some answers from the group of people that we take on, and we offer two programs per year. So we're coming to the end of 2018, so we'll have one starting again in the new year. We think it's going to be about the 1st of March-ish, something like that. So if you're a WordPress developer, agency owner, probably not a designer, because we're not designers, so we probably won't be able to mentor very well on that. But if you use WordPress and you're looking for some help, we can try our best to use our expertise that we've learned over the last decade or so and try and help you. And it's completely free. So if you're interested, let me know.
Excellent, thank you. Sorry, highrise.digital. Anybody else got anything else to share? Yes.
Hi there. My name is Daniel. I work for a small NGO called the International Observatory of Human Rights. Basically, it's a small team of journalists who report about human rights violations all across the world. Mostly they do journalism and video materials. And they're like a team of completely atypical people. They know their stuff, but they also want to go online. For now, we have a website and we have a TV app, and we'd like to penetrate the online more, like go into mobile apps and all that. So we're looking for a developer who needs to know basically WordPress, React, and just to get into this mobile app things. At the beginning, it's just going to be maintenance for our current website and apps, and in the future, like more and more development. So if you're interested, just come and approach me in the break or something. Thanks you.
Excellent, thank you. Is that a hired position you're looking to hire?
Yes, full time.
Thank you. Any other questions at all? Any other announcements at all? No, all good, all finished. Excellent. Okay, well, we've got a couple just to announce. I'm just very quickly going to mention an open letter that we've recently written to the WordPress community. It's a difficult subject. It is a subject that I would like to, as a community, to be discussing more openly. The open letter does touch on mental health and suicide, so please be aware if you do visit and read this letter, there are some triggers, potential triggers within that letter. But it is also a very important subject matter that needs to be discussed. So I would encourage you to visit wpnup.org/letter just to read this. It's finally official at last. WordCamp London. 5th to the 7th of April 2019, we will be holding the next WordCamp London. We're going to be at the same venue. It's all been secured. So if you've been before, just out of interest, who hasn't been to WordCamp London before? Excellent. A few of you, yes. Well, it would be really great to see you. Come and join us. It would be really great to hear if you're interested in speaking or sponsoring. We will be getting the calls for speakers and sponsors out fairly shortly. Some of you may be aware that we are slightly behind in our regular timeline, so there'll be a slightly shortened window for us to get all this information out, but we will be. So please do keep an eye on. We haven't launched the full site yet, so this is the first view publicly, I think, of the brand for WordCamp London 2019. So do have a look, 2019.london.wordcamp.org. If you're interested, there's a little sign up on there. Just drop your email address in. You'll be kept updated as to what's going on. We do have a full team, except for one very, 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 very important part. We don't have an accessibility team currently, and this is a major issue. We've already had some issues with color contrast and some of the things that we've looked at. We need some support. WordCamps are run by volunteers. We do need a team, or at least an individual that has some expertise and understanding around web accessibility, but we would also like to be looking at the venue from an accessibility perspective as well. So if that's you, or if you are aware of somebody that would be potentially interested, do come and have a chat with myself or some others. If you're in the WordCamp London team, do you want to stick your hand up just so people know who's here? Anybody that's got their hand up right now, if you're interested in potentially getting involved, do come and have a chat and let them know, or myself, because as I say, we want to ensure that the event is as accessible to as many as possible, both on and offline. So it's very important. The letter that I mentioned at the start, the individual that the letter is written about was actually leading the accessibility team. So it would be fitting if somebody could step up and support that role. The WordCamp London meetings are held every single Monday, but there are also a whole load of other things going on in the UK Slack team, wpslack.uk. If you're not on there, I'd highly recommend heading along to this website, drop your email address in, and you'll get an invite into the UK Slack team. You'll find location-specific channels in that team. There is a WPLDN channel, but you'll also find channels that are focused on development, focused on design, focused on business. So there are lots of channels where people are chatting about all sorts of things. As I say, the WordCamp London meetings happen in this Slack team every Monday at 6:30 as well. So if you're interested in seeing what's going on, what it takes to organise a WordCamp, feel free to jump in, have a look, and anybody is welcome to jump in on those conversations at any point. So it'd be great to see you there. Anybody heard about this WordPress 5.0 thing? Maybe this Gutenberg thing? Anybody kind of come across anybody's radar? Anybody not heard of Gutenberg? Just not quite heard. So obviously we're slightly behind on the target date for release for 5.0. So it was November 19th, was 27th of November. We are still at a to be determined date for the release of 5.0. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, are very aware of the change that's coming with Gutenberg and the 5.0 update. So client sites, your sites, that update process needs to be looked at, needs to be ensured that you have backups, etc. Matt is actually holding a listening office hours with Matt Allenweg. But from today through till Sunday, if you visit this URL, we'll get that tweeted out in a moment, you can actually schedule a 15-minute conversation with Matt Mullenweg to discuss Gutenberg, which is very interesting. I looked earlier on, there are still some slots available. So if you have strong opinions, or if you have non-strong opinions about Gutenberg, but want to have a chat with Matt about it and give some direct feedback, here is an opportunity to do that. PHP 7.3 is due for release fairly shortly. The RC is, where are we? RC6, IC6 has already gone, I believe. Released. General release is due the 13th of December. So if you are a plugin developer, theme developer, you need to get your themes plugins tested against PHP 7.3. I mentioned the letter earlier on. The letter is part of a wider project called WP&Up. WP&Up promotes and supports positive mental health within the WordPress community. It is a registered charity in the UK. We are undertaking a number of projects over the next few months, and we would love your support, your involvement in those projects. Through December, as freelancers, when you're in the traditional office space, we have the Secret Santa. We miss out on that as freelancers, as solo business owners, as small businesses often. So we wanted to kind of a bit of a twist on that, throw our names in a hat, pull a name out, and that name, instead of buying them a gift that they'll never ever use, just contact them, reach out to them, and actually through the month of December, build those relationships, make new friends, make new connections. So if you're interested, again, come have a chat with me. Through the month of January, we're going to be launching our movement motivation. So we're bringing people together on mentorship calls, but during those calls, instead of just sitting there at your desk with your headphones on having a chat, it's about actually getting out and moving. So instead of just being in your office, you're out, whether it's in your garden or whether it's just around the streets. You're moving, getting the physical exercise that often we need that supports our mental health. And during the month of February next year, we are running a month-long of events. This is something that we have already gained a lot of support from other meetups across the UK and outside the UK. It's just a case of, if you are a meetup organizer, if you are a WordCamp organizer and through December would like to have a mental health focused talk, or would like to just get a discussion going within your event, we're encouraging this throughout December. We're also about to launch our mental health survey within the WordPress community. So again, we really appreciate your support to get that distributed. That's enough from me. I'm now going to hand you over to Alex Denning. Alex is the founder of Ellipse Marketing and is the co-author of the masterwp.co newsletter. If you are not signed up to it, highly recommend it. Was it a weekly newsletter, isn't it? Loads of really great stuff in there. Really, really recommend heading over to masterwp.co. And Alex is giving his talk this evening, Marketing Channels and How to Think About Marketing Your WordPress Business. So please give Alex a big round of applause. Okay, just give us a moment while we change over laptops. Whilst Alex is just turning that on, did anybody have any questions at all about anything that I covered through that period? Excellent. So that's PHP 7.3 testing. Yes. Fantastic. Thank you. Yes. So we're potentially looking at 4.9.9 to support 7.3 if 5.0 doesn't come out 5.0 doesn't come out prior to 7.3. I think. Anyway, I'm going to shut up and hand over to you, Alex.
Thank you. Can we hear me? Okay, live stream wise? Great. So yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Alex. This is a talk about marketing channels and how to think about marketing your WordPress business. So this is my name. My name is Alex. So as Dan mentioned, I run a marketing agency called Ellipsis Marketing, and we solve marketing problems for WordPress businesses. As Dan also kindly mentioned, I do a weekly newsletter for WordPress professionals. It seems like a great audience to plug that. It's masterwp.co, and helpfully it's in very small text that you can't read. But like it's a weekly newsletter, and the pitch is it's good, which is like quite rare in the newsletter space. So this talks about marketing channels as a kind of philosophy of marketing, and as a way of thinking about how to do marketing, specifically in the WordPress space. So I want to talk about what that means. What is a philosophy of marketing? Is it a pretentious notion, or is it helpful? What are marketing channels? How do they work? How do we find the right ones, and so on? So when I say WordPress businesses, who is like, yes, that is me. I work for one, or I do that. Okay, and when I say marketing for WordPress businesses, who is like, yes, that is me, or yes, I should do that. It's okay if it's either. So for those of you who either do or nominally do this, I hope this will be very practical. Even if you perhaps would not be so excited by the M word, I hope at least this will be interesting and is a useful, interesting way of kind of seeing how the world of marketing works. So here's the plan. I just want to paint a little story of before and after we apply this philosophy. So before usage of marketing channels, and then by the end of the talk, we'll come to the promised land of after usage of marketing channels. So before, everything is awful and on fire. Not really sure where clients or customers are coming from, and it's kind of ad hoc. I don't know how to deal with opportunities and focus on that. Afterwards, everything is fine, and you can see here drinks are provided. Able to effectively focus on what works and ignore what doesn't work, and it gives you a kind of clear plan. And whilst this is slightly silly, the difference can be very serious, and it can be the difference between kind of struggling or surviving and really thriving. So the plan is we're going to look at three things: what this thing is, what are marketing channels, how to pick the right ones, and then how to actually use it. I will try and this mixes some fairly theoretical, high-level stuff at the start, but I'll try and get into the weeds of it as we go. What is a marketing channel? The great thing about this idea is it's remarkably simple, and it just intuitively makes a lot of sense. So marketing channels are just categories of marketing activities, and they need to be specific, individual things, and that are siloed from other activities. So, for example, you might have paid search ads could be one marketing channel. TV ads could also be another marketing channel. So very straightforward. But the distinction between them being siloed and individual is that we have paid search ads and TV ads rather than, say, just ads. You could have sponsoring conferences, such as WordCamp London, talk to Dan, but that would be, say, separate to speaking or attending at conferences. And you might, say, decide that you're going to sponsor conferences where you say you think that might be the desired outcome, getting clients or customers from that. So I'm sure that's what the sponsors here have in mind. But you might want to speak at conferences that, say, you think that might be good for hiring. So these are some examples. They are, if you try to think of them, you could probably come up with, say, 20 or so off the top of your head. And yeah, they range from like content marketing, paid search ads, and so on. They don't want to give me some great ideas of things that they might use. Word of mouth, great one. LinkedIn, also good, yeah. Yeah. SEO, yes, classic one. Exactly, yeah, yeah. We get the idea, yeah. There are, so I think if we, between us, we could probably fairly easily come up with, say, 20 or so. Obviously, some of these are more specific to the WordPress space than others. Unless you are automatic, you're probably not running TV ads. But you know, maybe TV ads is the great underutilized marketing channel for WordPress agencies. I'd be surprised, but you know, the part of the notion is that you try things out. And so to move this into why this is interesting is because this is a really effective way of thinking about your marketing. It's effective because it forces you to test and find out what works, and it forces you to focus on what works at the expense of everything else. Now that last part is really important. It forces you to focus on what works and abandon everything else. So you want to have as few marketing channels as you can. And by few, I mean like literally 2 or 3 is absolutely fine for very reasonably sized businesses. Most WordPress, even the largest WordPress businesses, are probably at the stage where like 4 or 5 is as many as you need. For most, 2 or 3 is absolutely fine. And part of the reason this is so useful is it mandates that you abandon everything else that's not on your list of effective marketing channels. And this means that you can focus on what really works. It also means that, say, new opportunities come in, you have an easy heuristic to run against. Do we want to do this or not? And so when we do this kind of work for clients, one of the things that comes back a lot is, I have lots of these opportunities, but I don't know which ones to prioritize. Or this idea's just come in, like someone's offered us sponsoring X, and we don't know whether to do it. And once you have your list of marketing channels that work, that lets you say, okay, does this fit in with what we're doing? If so, yes, let's do it. If not, then no matter how exciting it might be, we think that the time that, say, an opportunity would require can go elsewhere. So that's the kind of high-level stuff. It's just categories of marketing activities. Trying to do 1 or 2 to 3 of them, as few of them as possible, and then not doing anything else. It is as complicated as it sounds in that it's relatively straightforward. It's just sometimes you need to hear these things. So to move these to a little bit more of a practical level, we know what they are. How do we find out what we could be doing and get to the promised land where things aren't on fire? This is the kind of DIY method of working out your marketing channels. And it could be as simple as spending an afternoon looking at where your clients or customers have come from in the last, say, 6 to 12 months. you could list out all the clients you started working with, all the customers you've got, and list out where they've come from, and also all of the marketing activities you think you're doing, and match them up. It may be that something that you hadn't thought of as marketing is marketing. Perhaps going to your WordPress London Meetup is where you've got X amount of clients from, and perhaps you hadn't thought of it through a marketing lens. Then that starts giving you some answers around that. You can then look at, okay, so what else are people doing? Or what are some totally fresh ideas? What are our competitors doing? Are they doing the same thing as we are, but they seem to like it, and we don't? So perhaps you've been spending an afternoon a week writing blog posts, and you've done this analysis, and it turns out that no one is coming from your blog post, but you know that say X other people are doing these, and it seems to be working for them. Then you can say, okay, so how could these be improved? What are some other ways we could do these? And even just doing this is going to be a very good way of prioritizing what you're already doing. And perhaps you might then take off some of the things that aren't doing so well and focus more on the stuff that is working. And even if you don't apply this entire way of thinking, that's just quite a simple but effective way of running through what you're doing. Ideally, though, that's the kind of DIY version. The kind of full all-in marketing channel idea would consider everything you're doing, everything you could be doing, how it could be improved, any new ideas that perhaps come from other industries, or fresh from the top of your head, and kind of list out 3 to 6 possible ones. Once you've done that, moving towards putting this into practice is, again, fairly straightforward, and the kind of beauty of this is it's so intuitive. It's just a case of, once you've identified them, testing out what works. For stuff that's totally new, just running small tests that are time-bound, so say you commit to 3 months of paid search ads. Doing that just means that you don't quit after the first week. You give it time to succeed. For existing channels that you're already using, you might test out the tweaks. So say you've looked at the content your competitors are doing, and you think you've identified what it might be that they're doing differently. Then it might be just a case of testing out those tweaks, and it's just approaching it all in the same way. You're not attached to any individual idea. You're open to seeing what the data says and trying each one of these for a time-bound amount of time. Also, set the success criteria before you start. So it's going to be like, we're doing content for 3 months in this way, and we'd like to have 10 new inquiries, which is an increase of Y over that at the end of that time. If we get it, then we know that this is good, and we can then prioritize our marketing channels. When you get to the end of that, you have put together a remarkably effective marketing strategy. And you want to take the 1, 2, or 3, which have been the most successful, and literally just ditch everything else. You can put it on a list to come back to, but you want to have as few marketing channels as possible. And this is when you move into the kind of final stage of this, which is maximizing a channel. i.e., when something works, do as much of this as you can, because this is where the efficiency comes from. Humans like new things because new things are shiny, and it can often be quite dull to do more of what is working, but this just insists on you doing that, and that's part of what makes it effective. You can think of each channel as though, say, each channel is filled with water, and you don't know how big it is. It is more efficient then to push more water through it than it is to dig 5 separate channels. Only then, when your channel is full, when it's full of water, or becoming ineffective, perhaps everyone else has copied you because it's such a good idea, should you then turn your attention to new channels? The only ones that's, say, flooding in our water-based channel analogy, do you turn your ideas to new things? And at that point, you can come back to perhaps the list of ideas that you had for next time and test them again. I hope we're all following my water-based channel analogy. Okay, so I want to put this into, give you a little example, put this into practice. This is a really good example. It's a plugin called EnviroGallery. And as you can see here, it's the best premium WordPress gallery plugin. This is a really good example because it's A, nothing to do with me, so it's evidence that people use this, which is good. B, it was sold at the end of last year, and both the buyer and the seller have written about, or done interviews about, how the business worked. The seller described it as a multi-million-dollar WordPress plugin business, and also a multi-million-dollar WordPress plugin transaction. So the former could have been, say, lifetime sales, but the transaction, we can assume it sold for over $1 million, which is, you know, a lot of money. The buyer then, 6 months later, did an interview in which he talked about how they do their marketing. This is what he said. The owner is called Nathan Singh, and this is from a website called theplugineconomy.com, which is very interesting. It does interviews with people who run WordPress product businesses. So Nathan says, our continued success has been a healthy mix of Facebook retargeting, laser-focused content marketing, industry affiliate relationships, and listening to our customers by delivering updates that matter to them. If you haven't yet, send surveys to understand what they want. So I think we can take, say, this latter half of it, listening to our customers by delivering updates that matter to them, as like good practice for product development. In which case, the first half is describing the marketing strategy, which for this multi-million-dollar WordPress plugin business is three things. And I hope that this kind of illustrates the point a little bit around you don't need many of these. So this multi-million-dollar WordPress plugin business is using three channels. It's using Facebook retargeting, what they call laser-focused content marketing, which I assume just means, say, SEO research content marketing. They might look up what people are searching when they want to buy a gallery plugin, and then they might create content around that. And affiliates, or described it as industry affiliate relationships. That's just like people who have websites about WordPress, and it's giving them a share of any sales they bring in. And that's your multi-million-dollar marketing plan. And I like this example because EnviroGallery is a WordPress gallery plugin of which there are like lots. I'm sure people have used plenty of them, and plenty have come and go over the years. So it's interesting because it succeeded and got to that scale despite being a like relatively commodifiable field, as in the barrier to making a WordPress gallery plugin is quite low. But by using these three marketing channels, that's where they've got to. The question then, for those of you who are making these kinds of decisions of what are your channels, how do you move from the land of everything being on fire to the land of everything being fine? And perhaps this is something to think about as we move to 2019 as a kind of nice reset point. So these 4 points are quite good for just running through that. So what are you currently doing? Is it working? What else could you be doing? How could these two be improved? And how do you test those two improvements? And then it's just a matter of focusing on what works. And to just kind of recap here, the land of everything awful and being on fire is not good. I and out of everything being fine is good. And marketing channels force you to focus on what works and ignore what doesn't work, and that makes it really effective. That's that. If you have any queries, I think we have time for questions now, or you can tweet and or email me. Also, get my newsletter, which is just there. Thanks.
Alex, thank you so much. We do have time for some questions, if we have any at all.
Thanks, Alex. Your newsletter is great, by the way. My question is, which marketing channels do you use for your newsletter?
Really good question. And in fact, I started writing the case study here on what I did, and I scrapped it because I decided it was not case study worthy. So this newsletter, weekly newsletter, for WordPress people, it has WordPress like news and analysis. We started it nearly 2 years ago, and basically I thought I get newsletters which are good, that I like, and I don't have that for WordPress, therefore we should make one. And so our comparative advantage was going to be quality, and that was the thesis. We thought we could use word of mouth exclusively, and that's all we've done. So it's not a good example in that, well, I guess it is a good example in that we've got literally one. We did not try anything else, but it's worked so far. We now have 3,000 subscribers.
Fantastic. Any other questions? Yes, go.
Hi, really good talk. Question about Facebook retargeting.
Mm-hmm.
Have you come across any companies, or what would you tell them what to do if, assuming that Facebook retargeting makes up a significant chunk of their marketing efforts to drive traffic to their site and sales? What happens if Facebook decides to pull the plug on them, or just Facebook itself collapses and they are suddenly left without that channel?
Interesting question. So I liked the Envira gallery example because it's both not a client, and they use this idea in a slightly different way, in that they use Facebook retargeting clearly, and that is not something that currently we have told clients to do. The reason you have multiple marketing channels is that you're therefore not dependent on any one, and you're also nominally, when you do this fully, you are nominally testing new ideas at any time, and the idea is eventually all channels will become saturated, and therefore you're always on the lookout for something new. In practice, that's not always the case. I wouldn't say that, say, most clients that we work with are always on the lookout for something new, in that they are at the stage where they're focusing on what works. You would generally, over time, so I think the likelihood that, say, Facebook implodes overnight would be, say, low. It's more likely that over, say, 18 months or 3 years or something, or that kind of time period, you saw the effectiveness of Facebook ads drop off. I would suggest that kind of thing would be more likely, and at that point you'd say, okay, this channel has become, say, in our water analogy, the channel's become filled in, because either what often happens is lots of people use it, or in a case where you're reliant on a third party, then I guess like black swan event happens with that. Normally that's how you would deal with it, yeah. So a great example is, say 10 years ago, Google ad clicks were really cheap, and so they were very popular. Google ad clicks are less cheap now, and you have to be good at it to make it work, and so they're less popular as a like general getting started technique. I think you would see that kind of thing. Yeah, but interesting idea.
Yeah, great question, great answer. Thank you. I think another question just here.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly say, great talk and presentation. I wanted to ask you how you get people that might be clinging to a dead channel to change. So I'm not in marketing at all. I do development, but I work with a lot of businesses where they just tend to cling to what they do. So like you, they had an idea, it worked, but then they never want to change ever.
It's an interesting one. So this comes from this kind of refined version comes from we do this for clients. People pay us money to be told what to do, and like generally we're pretty good at it. Sometimes we do have clients who will pay us money for us to tell them what to do. We'll tell them to do something else, and that's not what they want to hear. As with any client-based business, we're especially conscious now when we're telling the client that they are wrong about something, about how we phrase that. Yeah, but it's sometimes you get sometimes the feedback needs to be given differently, or it's not what they want. It's being live streamed. All my clients are great.
It's always a tricky conversation, that one, isn't it?
Hello, I also enjoy your newsletter on a weekly basis. It's one of the few that I always open, so that's a real accolade, I think. My question is, are there any channels for people who are actually running WordPress agencies rather than product-related WordPress that you find work better than others, and ones that you find actually really don't tend to work very well? You mentioned PPC ads being quite expensive, for example.
Yes, so the WordPress agencies is in the work we've done with agencies is a unhelpful category, in that it focuses on WordPress as the solution when actually it's the clients are. It's some WordPress agencies do enterprise sites in a specific area. Some WordPress agencies will do websites for small businesses. Whenever we work with agencies, we'll try and split it up that way. So like the general rule for WordPress agencies doesn't exist in the WordPress agencies as a general thing isn't I think the right category from a marketing lens. That doesn't answer your question. A great example. We are currently doing some work with Whole Grain Digital, who Tom was here last month. Whole Grain are a green-focused agency, and we think that there is scope to focus on that and build out an audience and resonate with people who are share their values through what we're calling strong opinions content, in which the idea is they're producing content on their blog, which is maybe a little bit controversial in the kind of green/environment/ethical sphere, and with their target audience of green clients, that should resonate strongly. That is not a marketing channel that you see a lot of WordPress agencies using, and therefore I'm excited about the scope for that. That's the kind of so it's content marketing. It's just the Enviro Gallery example of laser focused content marketing. They're focusing, I'm sure, on probably SEO. We are focusing on with Whole Grain on getting content shared amongst their target audience.
Excellent, thank you. Do you have time for one more question if we've got any at all? No, no more questions? Oh, yeah, one more.
Hello, and thank you for your talk. It's actually my first time at WordPress London. Your talk was quite interesting. Just the question I'd like to ask is, you running a campaign for clients. So, how long would you recommend that the client run those campaigns? Is it like over a year? Is it over 2 years? Because there's a budget, and how long does it act like this is not working? You know, that I've been running campaigns for like 6 months, 12 months. Like, what's the stop point?
Sure. So it depends on the client. Sometimes they would like us to take care of all of their marketing, and we'll do like all of this, and then also run it for them. In that case, the client hands over a lot of trust to choose the right channels for them. But it goes through a process of finding out what works, and we're very clear that we're going to do some things that aren't going to work, but that's in order to find the things that do work. Once you know something works, it is do it for as long as you can. And as I said, like that can be quite boring. One of our clients, we've been doing more or less the same thing for about 18 months now, and we chat at the end of each month and talk about what we're doing. I would love to talk about new ideas, but actually the most effective work for the client is just to get on with it. And there will be a point, whether they don't use Facebook, but if Facebook became extinct and that was a part of their marketing strategy, whether it's that or something else, there'll be a point at which those become less effective. We will try and tweak it over time to mitigate that, but it might be a point where we say, okay, this isn't a good fit for you anymore, but there's always something else to try. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Alex, thank you very much.
Sure.
Really appreciate your time. Excellent. Well, we do have time for a quick break now. I'm not sure if there's any pizzas left over. Please do feel free. Help yourself to the swag. Help yourself to drinks. We'll talk. Thank you. Okay, hope you managed to finish off all the pizzas and drinks over there. Hope you've also managed to gain a suitable amount of swag from our lovely sponsors this evening. I'm now going to introduce you to Mark Wilkinson. Mark is a developer and co-founder of High Rise Digital. He's going to be talking to us tonight about transitioning into a block-based editor in a pre-Gutenberg world. So please give Mark a big round of applause.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me as well. So, as Dan said, my name's Mark, and I'm going to talk to you how we moved to using a block-based editing system in WordPress before Gutenberg was a thing. So this talk is not entirely about Gutenberg, but it will touch on it as well, because obviously it's a big topic and it impacts on the work that we have done. So it is worth saying that this is going to say about an alternative approach to using Gutenberg, but that does not mean to say that me or High Rise Digital are anti-Gutenberg. It is the future of WordPress. Whether you like it or not, it will be the future of WordPress. So we will certainly be embracing that. But on our journey, when we started looking at how to give our clients more of a block-based system, it just wasn't ready. We weren't ready for various reasons. So we looked at alternative ways of doing it. And that's what this talk is going to cover. So if you've not used Gutenberg, if you've not looked at Gutenberg, then, well, probably 3 months was the time, 3 months ago. But certainly have a look at it now. It is a WordPress plugin if you have not used it, so you can quite easily install it on a testing site, I would recommend, not on a live site. And it will be released in WordPress version 5.0, which is, well, imminent, as Dan mentioned at the start of the presentation of this evening. When it will arrive, who knows, but it won't be very long. So make sure you're getting ready. So what sort of brought about this change in the way that we were building WordPress sites? And the main reason that we decided a block-based system for letting clients to make websites was because designs have changed. So we've seen this change over the last 5 or 6 years, actually, but particularly over the last two years, designs have changed rapidly from what they used to be looking like. I watched a very good talk a few years ago about how the web looks the same. All websites kind of look the same. And I think that is true, but they all change at the same sort of rate, if you like. They all follow a pattern. So that change has happened in the last few years, and that's prompted our change in the way we've been building websites. So let's have a look at this change and what it was and what it meant. Sorry, my clicker's been a bit weird. So this is an example of a what you might call a traditional design from a few years ago. This is the Facebook.com newsroom website, I believe, and I'm sure Gary will tell me whether this is true. It's on VIP, WordPress.com VIP, or it was at the time. It's in the WordPress showcase, if you've not seen it. On the WordPress.org, they have a showcase of all the different sites that use WordPress. This is one of them. And this is what perhaps a more traditional design used to look like. They're not all the same, but they follow these sort of patterns that we found. So you have a header at the top, and in this header you tend to have a menu, you would have a logo, you may have some social sharing icons, possibly a search. That often is a popular thing in the header. You then have the content box. So this is the main body of the page, if you like, and traditionally it's just had an image or images, a gallery maybe, some content, the author's information, etc. But it's kind of all one section of the page. On the right-hand side, in this case, you've got a sidebar. It doesn't have to be on the right. It can often be on the left. It changes around depending on which theme you're looking at. But in this case, they've got a sidebar on the right, and they've got some information about what categories of blog or news they've got, and various other things. But it was very popular, a sidebar with sites a while ago. And then you've got a footer at the bottom. These haven't really changed that much, to be honest. We've got usually a menu in there of some sort, some usual copyright information, site information, cookies information these days, privacy information these days. But they haven't really changed very much at all. But that's kind of what we used to get as a design. And design was different, obviously, but essentially they kind of look the same, a lot of them. They had the same elements, and that's what they look like. So I guess how have they changed? So this was a design we've been working on recently over the last few months, building a site, and this was the design that we received. This was one of the pages that we received. And you can see it looks a bit different. So we've got different sections. We've still got a footer, which is fairly standard, but the other sections kind of have disappeared a little bit. There are similarities, don't get me wrong, but it has changed slightly. This is another example from a different page from the same design. And you can see it's slightly different. So when you break it down, it's kind of built up of blocks of content. The block is here. So the block of content that we know of with Gutenberg. So we've got at the top there, we've got like a header block, or what we've called like a hero block, which is a hero sort of big picture or big image across the top. It sometimes is like a slider on various different pages if you've got more than one. We've still got the menu and the search, they stay the same, and the logo. And then we've got other sort of blocks of content that tend to be full width. The sidebar has gone away slightly. It's not gone forever. I think it'll be back as well, but it's disappeared a little bit in designs. This is the other page. Again, we've got a video block. We've got this sort of recent posts or featured posts, or whatever you want to call it. It's got this grid of posts. This was obviously the design, so these will obviously be filled with, these grey boxes will be filled with images when the actual site gets launched and so on. So this was the design we received, and it's quite hard to do this in WordPress in many aspects. So it presents a problem for developers, for designers, for assemblers, people who are making WordPress sites. It becomes a bit of a problem. How do we make this available? How do we make it so that the clients can manage the content, edit the content in WordPress with this block-based system? Obviously, in the future, that's probably going to be Gutenberg. But we weren't using Gutenberg at the time, so how did we do it? So if we look at the old design again, these are the things in WordPress that allow us to do this quite easily. So at the top there in the header, we've got a WP nav menu. That's the function that you can use to output the menu. WordPress has a built-in menu system that allows you to edit menus. It's pretty good. It gives you like nested menus. There's plugins to extend that and make it better, such as mega menus and things like that. So it's got a pretty good menu system that you can use to do the menus. And we've also got the customizer where you can add logos and things like that. Favicons out of the box and stuff, so that's pretty good. We've then got the main content of the page. That's the WordPress editor as it was, or as it still is at this moment in time, I guess, which is the WYSIWYG editor that we all know and love, or know and not love. And that's kind of really good for this. It allows you to do the post title, it does the date automatically for you, it gives you a WYSIWYG to type the content in, where you can add galleries and pictures and links and lists and all sorts of stuff. And it's pretty good for this sort of layout. So this left-hand side of the page, it does really well in terms of handling that sort of content. The sidebar is really good. We've got some widgets in WordPress. Some people love them, some people hate them, but for a sidebar, they work pretty well. You can add widgets that do this sort of stuff, add the categories and a list of pages and even images and things now. There's lots of new widgets that have come in relatively recently. I can't remember which version of WordPress it was, but we can have videos and galleries and images and things linked to different places. So it's really good for handling the sidebar. And then in the footer, again, we can use nav menus or widgets to handle the footer. Lots of themes handle the footer with widgets, and they have like different columns. But it works pretty well, and it allows clients to edit these pages relatively straightforward. There are things that could be improved, definitely, but they can do it pretty well. So how do you allow the client to edit this content when you've just got that to allow them to edit it? It becomes pretty difficult. We only have this WYSIWYG box in WordPress as the content editor, so allow them to do those full width, sort of rich style blocks with images and videos and text and all sorts of other things. Embedded content becomes a little bit more difficult. However, there have been lots of attempted solutions over the years. There's been countless numbers of solutions that have been tried. Some have been really good, some of them have been really, really bad, and some of them in a bit in the middle. So let's have a look at some of the attempted solutions. So the first one is the good old shortcode. If you've never used a shortcode before, it kind of looks like that in the editor. It's not quite as big as that, but You kind of get the impression. So it's basically something in square brackets, and it's a piece of text or a string of text. It can have some attributes as well. So it could have some, such and such equals something else. If it was like a tweet shortcode, it might be like user equals WP mark, number of tweets equals 10, and then it would show 10 tweets from my sort of account. And it works really well. So on the front end, this gets replaced with whatever the output should be for that shortcode. But it's a bit hard to use. Unless you know exactly what to type, it doesn't work because you don't know what it is. And it can be a bit of a pain, to be honest, for content editors. If you're a WordPress user that's seasoned, you know exactly what you're doing, it's fine. They work really well. But if you're new to WordPress or you're a client that's just got a WordPress site, it's like, what on earth is this string I'm having to type in? It just means nothing. Why am I typing this in when I'm getting something on the front end that's completely different? It can be a bit confusing. There's been some attempts to fix that as well. So I don't know if anyone's seen this plugin. It's called the Shortcake plugin. It's like a attempt to provide a UI for shortcodes. It's actually really, really good. If you've not used it, have a go with it. And instead of having to type that string of text for the shortcode, it gives you a user interface, something like this. So on the post edit screen next to add media, you get an add post element button. When you press it, any shortcodes that have been registered with it, they list on the screen as an icon. You can click on one of those. This is like a quote one. And then you get some boxes to type in the stuff that you need to type in. So this is the quote text, and the source of the quote is written in that box. And then it's not actually shown on here, but down in the bottom right, there'll be an insert into post button. When you press that, it will drop that into the editor. But not only that, it will preview what it will look like on the front end. So it's a bit of a better experience for clients. But it's not perfect. It requires some work from the developer to make it work. It's better, but it's not quite there. The next thing to look at was page builders. These are really, really popular at the moment. There's lots and lots and lots and lots of them, all trying to do the same thing in different ways. Some of them are very, very good. Don't get me wrong. They are. Some of them aren't so good. But they all try to allow us to create these block-based layouts, page layouts that we can create inside WordPress rather than having to have a developer come in and allow us to build that stuff. But we found they fall short in a lot of places. For us, they just give too much control. They allow you to change practically anything of a website on that page. So I can add a block, and I can add the padding and the margin and the background color and everything. So really what happens is the user or the client, the owner of the website, becomes the designer. They can design any page they want to. And if they're a great designer, then that's good. But they've probably paid for a design, and actually they can't actually stick to that design because the tools that we're giving them to edit the page don't allow them to stick to that design. Something we're quite passionate about is making it so easy for the clients to edit their content. So making it so that they can't get it wrong. It's going to look good on the front end all the time. Page builders, they do allow you to do that, but they give you a lot of control that I don't think clients sometimes need or want because it's too complicated for them. So there's Elementor at the top left, I think it is, Visual Composer, don't know what the bottom right is, and Divi is the one on the bottom. Sorry, the bottom left. Divi is the one on the bottom right, which is quite a popular page builder if you've used that. So they're really good, but they just fall short a little bit for what we were looking for. And then, of course, there's Gutenberg, is another attempted solution. It will be the solution. I'm sure it will be the solution. It's not ready yet. It's not quite ready for launch. And I'm sure even once it launches, it's going to improve over the coming weeks, months, years. It does have some issues. So, again, it has this aspect of giving too much control. So I don't know if you've used it, but like on a paragraph block, you can change the size of the font with a slider, which is dangerous to me. You can add background colors, you can add font colors, you can add drop caps on the front of it. You know, how are we supposed to stick to some design principles when we've got all those options? And yes, you can remove them. I'm sure you can remove them. But out of the box, it does give a lot of control. It also has some other options, other problems, should I say. I was looking at using Gutenberg for some projects recently, actually. And one of the things we often do is like a call to action block, which basically gives you or gives the client the option to add a title, an image, a description, and a button. So essentially, you know, here's some information, click this button as a call to action. And I was finding myself thinking, well, I could make my own block about this just to give the clients the stuff to put in. But then I thought, well, actually, Gutenberg does this out the box. It gives me a heading or a paragraph. It gives me an image. It gives me a button. It gives me a paragraph to put the description in. But there's no way or easy way of grouping that and calling that block a call to action block. It's all separate in the design or in the layout. So again, I'm sure there's ways around that, but out of the box, it's not quite there for us. So those are some of the solutions that we looked at and declined, I guess, because they weren't right for us. So let's have a look at what our solution was and how we solved the problem of trying to create websites which have a block-based layout, allowing the clients to easily manage that content so that it was obvious where to edit the content and where to manage those pages. And the solution was something I'm sure you've all used. It's not rocket science. I'm sorry to say, if you're coming with some amazing answers to things, it isn't rocket science. If you've not used Advanced Custom Fields from Elliot Condon and his team, it is a wonderful plugin. It allows you to create completely bespoke editing screens for WordPress. It is really good, so have a look at it, definitely. What we were using, though, is one of the field types in that plugin called flexible content. And this was the field that really made our sort of system work. It is a pro version that you need to buy. It's peanuts, basically, to buy, and you only have to pay it once. I think it's $25 for a single site to use. It's ridiculously cheap. And what this allows us to do, as you can see in the little screenshot here, is it allows us to create different blocks. So in this case, downloads, quote, gallery, image, and content. And the user can just click this button. It doesn't have to say add row. It can say add section or add content or add block, whatever it can. And then they can choose what they want to add. And when you click on one of these things in the list, it gives you a different set of fields in the editing screen that are appropriate for that particular block. So if I was to click on the content one at the top, I'd just probably get the WYSIWYG editor that I get now. If I was to click on the quote one, I'd probably get something similar to the screenshot that you've just seen, where you get like what's the quote, what's the person that's given the quote, etc. And this is a really great way of doing it. So this is an example of what we've built for someone. So yes, it does animate. I thought it was. So here you can see there's lots of different blocks, if you like. You can drag and drop them up and down. Each one has different settings or different fields for the user to fill in. And it's pretty intuitive for the user. They come in here, they decide what they want, and they've got a box to type in the information that they need. They don't have to worry about how that looks on the front end. They don't have to worry about how much padding they add onto it. That's all handled within the build and the design, and that just gets output properly for them. There are some options, because they do need them, let's be honest, but we try to limit those as much as we can. And this plugin allows us to do that. It allows us the control to say, we'll let the client handle this, or edit this, or change this, but we're not going to let them handle all these things they don't need to worry about. So it's really good in that aspect. So all this led to us creating our own plugin, and we use this on probably 75% of all the sites we build now, and we've called it HD ACF Blocks plugin. It was born because we found ourselves using the flexible content field with ACF a lot. And we thought, we're just writing the same code again here. And then we get on to the next project and I'm just writing the same code again here. So we wanted a way to make this more reusable, but at the same time, making sure that it was flexible. We didn't want to be stuck into one way of doing things for all clients that had to use these fields and these blocks. But we wanted a way to speed up the process and make it so that it was nice and flexible so that we could use the same code base on multiple projects. So we created this plugin called the HD ACF Blocks plugin, and it needs ACF Pro to work, so obviously you need to have that installed and running and active, and a license in there for that. So what we created was a number of blocks out of the box. So these, I don't know whether this is the exhaustive list at the moment, but these are all the different types of blocks that we included in our plugin. So we've got we've integrated with Gravity Forms to create a block for that. I don't know if you use Gravity Forms, it's really good. Recent content, probably a really badly named block, but it's kind of like latest posts, if you like, or a latest custom post type. Content is just a WYSIWYG. A feature row is that kind of like media on the left, bit of text on the right with a button. The media could be an image, it could be a video, or something, and you can reverse that round as well so that the image is on the right and the text on the left. The client can decide which way around they want it. Videos, accordions, really good for like FAQs or accordions, so you can throw a load of accordion, FAQs like question, answer, and they're all collapsed, then you click it and it expands. That's quite a popular one. Call to actions there, statistics, all sorts. So you can see the sort of things we have, and like a separator is just basically a horizontal rule, and then we'd style that for whatever the client's design is. But it gives us some flexibility in what they have. So that's the blocks we have. Some clients have other blocks that they're not in that list, and we'd build them specifically for them. Some clients don't need all those blocks, so we wouldn't activate them for them. But the plugin is built so that it's very easy. It uses add theme support, a function in WordPress, to show whether a block should show for that particular client. This is the content block. This is a terrible block. I don't know why I put this in the slide. I should have put another one in, because it's basically the WYSIWYG, but there you go. I'll learn from that. So this is the content block. Every block has the option for a title. You don't have to have that. Some blocks don't need it, some blocks do. And then we can style every block title to be very similar. This one has got a repeatable field for the content, and each content WYSIWYG is treated as a column. So if you have more than one, it'll split it into 2 columns on the front end. And we limit that to 3, I think, because obviously, or maybe 4, I can't remember. But again, that's flexible. We can change that on a per project basis, because obviously 5 columns gets a bit cramped when you're on a desktop design. And each column can have a custom class. So if you want to do something specific with it, you can add a class in there and then style it, even using the customizer or something if you wanted to. You'll notice that each of the blocks has a content. Doesn't work on there. Content tab at the top left, and an options tab. So this is the options tab, and again, most blocks have these options, not all, but most. So you can choose a background color for the block. So if you think about the designs we saw at the start, some of those had a background color on them. You can choose a background image if you wanted to put an image at the background, and we'd have to make sure that that looks okay, depending on what image they put on the front end. And this option to use light text. So if you pick a dark background color, then dark text, dark background isn't going to work. So we'd tick that box, and it adds a class to the block, and then we can style that block based on that class to say, look, this needs to be treated as a light coloured block in terms of the text. And each block can have a custom class, so the whole block can just be given a custom class. We might want to do something different with it that's not particularly standard, that needs to be done. So, you might have heard me speak about extensible development, something I'm really passionate about, and it was really important to me that we built this in an extensible way. What is extensible development? Essentially means we can use the same plugin on every site we build, but we can modify it and change it without changing the plugin itself. So we have this sort of like auto-updating through GitHub. So we don't change the plugin on a per-client basis. We can add, we can interact with the plugin using actions and filters to make changes. So for example, we can change the fields that are in blocks. So if certain blocks don't need a certain field, we've got a people block. If they don't want to have a LinkedIn profile information on that, we can just take that out. So these are some of the extensible features. So we've built it with template overrides. So all of the front-end markup is done in the plugin. We don't have to redo that for each project. But sometimes that isn't appropriate. We need to change the front-end markup for different clients, because the design just needs it a bit different. So what we can do is we can take the template that's in the plugin, and we can just copy that into our theme in a specific folder, and it will use that instead. It uses the same principle that WooCommerce does. I think if you've used WooCommerce, you can take those templates that are in the plugin, you can put them in your theme, and they get used instead of the ones in the plugin. So it allows us to change the output of the blocks without changing the plugin code itself. So we're not worried about updating it and losing all the changes that we've made. As I said, the fields are just filterable fields. So as a developer, I can take fields off the screen. I can add fields to the screen. They're essentially just a massive array in PHP, and I can then push things into that array, or I can pull things out of that array, depending on what fields that I want to have for a specific client. Obviously, if I make changes to those fields, then any ones that I add are not going to get output by the plugin. You'd need to then override that in your theme and do a custom template. There's lots of actions and filters inside the plugin, so we can put functions in there that would output content before a template or after a template, or we can, for example, all of the image sizes that are called are filterable. So if one particular block needs to have a bigger image for a certain project, we can quickly filter that with a function. to make that image size a lot bigger. And we're currently implementing responsive images and lazy loading as well into the plugin as well. So that will be built in out the box, so that we can have all clients doing those things which are a bit improved for performance. And the last point is there's lots and lots of helper classes. So some of the blocks, like the content block that I showed you, have repeater fields in them. So you can have more than one content that splits it into columns. If it's a call to action, you can have more than one call to action, and it would show like 2 in a row or 3 in a row. So there's classes for all that, telling you how many there are on a block. And yes, I know you can do that with CSS, but sometimes it is really handy to just have a class that says, look, this is a call to action block, and there's 3 of them in it, or there's 4 of them in it. If you add a custom background image or background color, a class gets added to show that that block has got those features. Same with the light text. So it's really handy to have lots of helper classes, and all of the classes on all the blocks are all filterable as well. So if I need to add another class in as a developer, I can quite easily do that with a filter. It wasn't without its challenges, though, building this plugin. It's not perfect at all. It is not perfect. It still has issues. So I thought I'd just touch on a few of these challenges that we faced and how we tried. I'm not saying we're successful, but how we've tried to overcome them. So the first one is the interface and the styling. So I don't know if you've used ACF's flexible content filter field, but this is the edit screen when you've got lots of those fields on, and it kind of all blends into one. So on the front end, if I look at this page, it becomes very difficult to understand where my content is to edit. Is it in that content section? Is it in that image section? Is it in that coding? I absolutely don't know. So I've got to go in here and expand them all and try and find it. So it's a bit difficult to understand. So what we tried to do, sorry, before I say that, is it's a bit better than that, which is a popular page building plugin. This is a quite extreme example, so it's it's a bit biased, I must admit. But this is actually a real example from a client that emailed us and said, I need help with my WordPress site, editing the content. And we said, all right, so what are you using? Visual Composer, sorry. We said, well, you should be able to edit it. So when we logged in, this is what we saw, and we thought, that's why you can't edit your content. It is better than that, but it could be improved. So this is what we did to try and improve it. It was a bit of styling in the admin. That was all it took. So we found that actually if you made the headings darker, it made them stand out. It sounds ridiculous, but it actually helped a lot. And what we've also done, I don't know whether you can see, is that next to the block name, so next to content, we've actually put the block title. So whatever the user has typed into the block title, we've actually listed that next to the block name. And there's a nice filter in Advanced Custom Fields that you can use to do that, which is quite good. So that gets populated. So at least they can see which section of the page that they want to make an edit in, and they can go in and make that edit, which is good. Other issues, everything in ACF is post-meta. It's not part of the content of the post. So if you're using other themes and things, they need to have changes made to them for actually to output any content. Additionally, WordPress does not search post-meta by default in a search. So although your page might be full of this particular keyword because you've added it in all these blocks, a default WordPress search would say, it's not there, which is a bit strange for people to understand. There are some very good plugins that do better search. I think we've used Relevancy and another one that skips my name. Someone will shout it out on the later, let me know about. But they're quite good and they work. And I've also found some code recently that does extend WordPress's search to do metadata. So there are solutions to that, but out of the box, it's not ideal. And then the other thing was reusable blocks. And this is something that Gutenberg does very, very well. It allows you to save a block and then use it in multiple places on a website. So I can have a block that, I don't know, shows something. And then I can save that and then add it to multiple pages or multiple posts. And if I change it once, it changes across all those other posts. We've actually developed this now for the plugin. It's kind of, we've used it once. It seems to be working. So fingers crossed. It's based on a post type, basically, and it works that way. And it works quite well, actually, but it could do with some of it more testing. So hopefully that'll work as well and enable us to have reusable blocks. One of the popular ones is a lot of people seem to have like a couple of call to actions in the footer of the website, or like a sign-up box in the footer, and it allows you to add it as a block and then basically put it on every page, and if you change it once, you can change it on all those pages. So I don't know if you've seen this post. So the Advanced Custom Fields team have actually done some miracle work, I must admit, about allowing you to use Advanced Custom Fields to create Gutenberg blocks. So this is something that I'm currently investigating at the moment as to whether we can reuse a lot of our plugin and make them available as Gutenberg blocks using ACF. It's great because it doesn't need any sort of JavaScript or React knowledge, which I don't have. I know nothing about it. So that was my worry with Gutenberg, and again, why I couldn't really use it, because I just haven't a clue, to be honest. And I just didn't have time to learn it. I wanted to learn it, and I do want to learn it, but clients have got in the way, and you know, the day job takes over, really. But this allows you to do it without knowledge. Again, it's not perfect. It's great, but it's not perfect. But if you've not had a go with it, then and you're looking to create Gutenberg blocks, and you're limited in your knowledge of JavaScript, like me, then it's a really good option to look at. And like I said, congratulations to Elliot and his team for creating this. It's certainly something that I think is going to help a lot of people with Gutenberg. So that is us. That's my journey with using a block-based editor in pre-Gutenberg. I'm sure all that will change in the coming months as Gutenberg becomes a thing and so on. So I said, I'm Mark. I am co-owner of a small remote WordPress agency called High Rise Digital. I'd be honoured if you follow me on Twitter. It's WP Mark if you want to do that, if you want to find out what we're up to, and lots of WordPress related stuff in there. And as I mentioned before, we are trying to hire someone, a WordPress developer, someone who is reasonably competent front end and back end, has got those sorts of skills. So do visit that URL, or do have a chat with me if you are interested in that. Thank you.
Mark, thank you. Great talk. There's obviously a lot of there's a hot topic at the moment. We do have time for questions. If we have any, yes.
You have a lovely Lancashire accent.
Thank you.
Do you have local clients or all over the country?
All over the country, yeah. In fact, do we have a local client? We used to have a local client, but we don't anymore. But yeah, we don't have many that are local. We have lots of clients all over the UK and some international as well. So I'm just outside Preston in a small town called Leyland. Yeah, you can probably tell.
There's another question. Yes.
Firstly, it was to say thanks for the great talk. I really loved your bit about extensible plugins. It's such a thing for people to do. I was going to ask you a question about multilingual content. I see we've got Weglot over there in the advertisers. Have you experimented with taking the templates and adding on like a slug for the user language and locale so that you can customize it beyond, like a single experience per language?
No. In essence, no, we haven't. We haven't done much work with multilingual at all, actually. It's interesting you say that, because we've had an inquiry in this last week that's about multilingual, so it's something I'm sure we're going to have to look at in the future, but no. But yeah, interesting idea. Good, yeah.
Excellent. Any other questions? Yeah.
Hi. If you consider opening, like sharing with the public, this plugin maybe for free or commercial purposes, and why not?
I got asked this in the last talk. I did this talk at Manchester, and I got asked the same question. And we haven't up until now considered. If we did it, we'd just open source it. I think we wouldn't sell it or anything. And we've not ruled it out, put it that way. But at the moment, it's just for internal use only. But I think it's if it's something that people think could be helpful to them, then absolutely we can do that, I think. But I worry about all the support that comes with that. That's my only concern, I think.
Got another one back here.
Hi, great talk. You mentioned that content lives in post-meta, and that occasionally people want to search that. How do you handle searching on post-meta, knowing that the post-meta values are not indexed, and on a big site they will be super slow?
We don't really. I leave that to plugins to handle. So it's probably something of my knowledge that needs to be improved, definitely. But as I said, we we've just used, I think it's Relevancy we've used, which did pretty well. We don't have, or we don't build sites that are huge traffic sites or big sites, so I guess we've not run into that yet, but would love to know more about it, yeah. Thanks.
I've just got an observation on that, because what we've done is ended up completely disabling the normal editor, but then in the background actually copying all the data that from the ACF fields that you've created into there, so that then things like Yoast work pretty well with it, and also you can do the search as you say. It's just not actually displayed as part of the theme, or so it's more just to be able to be used in the back end as part of the search and part of SEO.
So do you output like the front end markup in that, or do you just output raw data?
We'd output the front end using the ACF fields, but just put it into that for the purposes of actually being able to do the search, and then turn it off. We've actually got a plugin which, if it's installed, it's on, and when you take it off, it's off, and then we can just turn it off so the client can't see it, or turn it off for user roles so they can't start messing around with it.
So when are you open sourcing this one? Yes,
Mike at the back.
Hi, Mark. Do you think the future editing is going to the front end?
I don't think it will quickly, but it might do eventually, yes. So there's been a lot of attempts on that, I think, over the course of the years that have failed. And I'm not so sure that some of the reasons why they failed have been solved so quickly, but I'm sure they will. So it's probably a matter of time more than the fact that it won't happen, I think. But I'm not so sure it'll happen, and it's just my personal opinion. I might be wrong, of course, but I'm not sure it'll happen in the next sort of like 12 months or so, but I might be wrong. Been known in the past.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions at all? No? Well, Mark, thank you very much.
Thank
you. Really appreciate you giving your time. Just give me a moment, I'll just change over the laptops. As you can see, a real smooth transition. Okay, right, we're there. I just want to say a huge, huge thank you to both Alex and Mark for giving their time this evening. I think they deserve a big round of applause, both of them. No, we're not there, are we? This is going so well. I just, if it wasn't for people like Alex and Mark giving their time this evening, we wouldn't be here. And it really, we are continually looking for speakers, continually looking for people to share their knowledge. Everybody in this room right now has something that other people in this room don't know, whether you know it or not. So please, we are continually looking for speakers. If you're interested in getting up here, sharing a bit of knowledge, and it doesn't have to be a full long form talk as you've seen this evening. We do run what are called lightning sessions, so just a quick 10-minute talk. And it may just be that you're aware of this particular plugin and you want to share some knowledge about it. Do come and see, do visit wpldn.uk. You will find a speaker application form on there. We'd love to hear from you because, to be honest, this is what this is about. We are a community sharing our knowledge, and without people stepping up and speaking, we're not going to have these kinds of events. We're not going to be able to share this kind of knowledge. So we'd love to hear from you. this is the last formal meetup for 2018. Mark was the last speaker for 2018. So the next event will be the 31st of January 2019. Yes, we're there already. If anybody's interested in running an informal meetup, a gathering, social get-together between today and the 31st of January, get in touch, because again, this is what these meetups are about. It's not about us just simply organising as an organising team for you. You can also get involved. If you want to have a get-together, get in touch with us and we'll help make that happen. It'd be great to hear from you. As always, we're looking for feedback. wpldn.uk/feedback. You'll be redirected to a Google form. You'll hit a maximum of 4 questions on that form. We are continually looking for that feedback. We're always wanting to evolve and shape these events for you, the community. So please do head to wpldn.uk/feedback. For those of you that can, we're going to head round to the Cross Keys, not far from here, just around the corner. Going to continue the networking, the discussions, the socialising, and have a drink or two together. So it would be great to see you there if you can join us. If you don't know where the Cross Keys are, follow that man there. Sorry. Yeah. Yes. Follow the man back there. Yes. I want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, SiteGround, WP Engine, Plesk, WeGloss and Yoti. And there is another sponsor that's not listed on there because they support our website, a company called Biblio. These 6 companies really do enable us to be able to have these events. This company right here, WeGloss, have already said they will support us through the rest of 2019, which is incredible. We'll share a bit more about that later in the first event in January. But it is, as I say, it is down to these companies that enable us to be able to be here, to be able to have these venues. I mean, the team at Yoti have just been incredible. They stepped up earlier on this year and supported us. And I think Yoti alone, they just do deserve a big round of applause, please. Not only do they give us this great venue, but they give us some great swag. You got power chargers over there. Go and grab some. Make sure you get it and stick it in your pocket and go home with it. Other than that, I want to say a big thank you to all of you, because without you attending, we wouldn't be having these events. So it's been great to see you all. Thank you all very much. Have a great Christmas and New Year, and we will see you in January. Good night. Yes, please.